I think radical accountability for ourselves is the only real job that we have in this world, in this human life. We have to take full accountability. We are exactly in the place where we have chosen to be.
Welcome to Vibecast, the podcast that dives deep into the heartbeat of workplace culture. I'm your host, Kristi. Join me in conversations with extraordinary leaders as we unravel their experiences, both positive and negative, that have impacted workplace culture. This podcast is more than storytelling. It's about actionable insights. Are you ready to transform the vibe at your workplace? Let's go. Today's guest, Zoe Walters, is a powerhouse in the world of leadership and transformation. She's a global HR exec, business psychologist, and high-performance strategist who's worked with some of the most iconic brands on the planet like Condé Nast, Adidas, and Diesel. She's all about helping ambitious leaders and entrepreneurs scale, whether that's your business, your impact, or your mindset. Zoe blends her deep HR experience with business psychology and AI innovation to help people scale their impact, monetize their knowledge, and lead with clarity and confidence. Whether you're a C-suite exec, an entrepreneur in the midst of a pivot, or a business owner ready to future-proof your strategy, you're going to want to listen in. All right, Zoe. Well, thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I feel like when we first met, we were like fast friends that had known each other forever. And here we are recording a podcast together. So I'm super excited for all that you have to share and share with this community of listeners that we have listening to the show. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you. Yes, when we first met, there was instant connection, certainly from my part. And I feel like we could spend a whole night chatting away, drinking coffee, wine, whatever your vice is. But yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your experience and for your listeners too. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, as I do, I'd love to just start out the conversation with your definition of a vibe. What does it mean to you? How do you explain it to others? And yeah, how would you say like what is it?
What is it? So, and I debated on this word for a long time. This is not the first time I've been asked, but a vibe to me is an energy. It's something that you feel, and or certainly that I feel. That's what I feel like. What's the vibe of someone? What's the vibe of the situation? What's the vibe of the office? What's the vibe of, everything? And for me, that's an energy. How do I feel? What's my vibe versus other vibes? How do I feel? Energy. So in a nutshell, that's what I think a vibe is for me.
Yeah. And how I'm going to take it a step further. I agree. It's like this thing that you feel when you go somewhere, but that is created somehow. So, like, how do you think it is created?
I don't know that it's so. I think that you've got people that intentionally curate their energy, and think that you have people that unintentionally so if you think about consciously competent, consciously incompetent, unconsciously all of that model.
It's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words, isn't it? If you think about that, I'm kind of got that in my head that there are people that are aware and there are people not aware. And so I kind of feel like if you're not aware, you will potentially sleepwalk through life, not understanding the impact of your ripple. So if you don't know what your vibe is and you're not managing your vibe, it means that your inner world or whatever is going inside of your emotions and feelings will then emulate out and transmit outwards, whatever that is. So if you're a frenetic person, chaotic, you might give that vibe off, right? And if you're very intentional and you're aware, then you know, well, today I'm feeling quite frantic and chaotic, but I want to show up as something different. So I'm going to change my state, change my energy, which changes my frequency, i.e., my vibe.
Yeah. No. Oh my gosh. I was having a conversation with my husband the other day, and I was like, every time I'm around this person, I feel like their energy it's like something I couldn't even describe, and I'm like, "Do you feel that too? Or maybe it's me?" But I know exactly what you mean, and I think that the intentionality is a great point, right? Of how people show up and choose to show up and, make a conscious effort to show up in the way that they want to has so much to do with that vibe. And I think we so often are just like moving. I'm guilty of this too, just like moving about our day without understanding like how we're waking up in the morning and then what that impact is on other people. Can you share a story maybe of your experience or your journey of where that energy was like intentionally or not intentionally or consciously or not consciously there and the impact that it had on you or the organization or the team or you personally?
Sure. So I think there's a couple of things. First of all, is that I do believe that the law of attraction is not something external other than vibe, right? I feel like we feel and we are magneted towards people based on an energy, on where we're repelled from them from an energy perspective. So I kind of feel like scientifically, there is absolute fact around we are made of energy. So if you think that we're made of energy, therefore we must transmit and receive energy sorts of ways. So that's the kind of prerequisite. So years ago, I went to a Tony Robbins event and it was a Unleash the Power Within, UPW. And I've been to multiple since and multiple other experiences that he provides. And I suppose I've always been very aware that there is something bigger than myself. Now, some people might call that God, some people might call that instinct, energy, universe, vibe, whatever you want to call it. It's something kind of like it's something bigger than me. And I contribute to this one field of vibe, consciousness, whatever it is. But I didn't quite understand it. So I knew, but I didn't quite understand it. But when I went to Robin's events over time, I started to understand how to state manage. So, how do I consciously cultivate state that I want to attract? So, if I want to attract people that are great people, good high energy, assertive, let's say, proactive, then I need to emulate those kind of, I need to be conscious about what mine is to attract into my world. So that's where it started. And I think I've always built pretty good teams based on the leadership model of ask, don't tell. I don't think people respond very well to being told. I've always had perhaps a coaching style about me, which is let's have a conversation, let's see how we can co-create that together. So that's always been something that's in certainly in my more mature years, in my 30s and 40s. And spoiler alert, just entered the 50s. So so that's the backdrop. So we're kind of building on the philosophy of I've had these experiences. I've been in leadership a long time. I'm now experienced and exposed to the kind of state management that Robbins brings. And then we fast forward. I left my corporate job in 2020 as an interim chief people officer for Condé Nast, and I was very relieved to leave that role because it came with a lot of pressure. But notwithstanding that, after that, I enrolled in a master's in transpersonal psychology. For anyone that doesn't know what that means, transcend beyond the ego. So it's a new stream of psychology which is actually based on Abraham Maslow. So you know him as hierarchy of needs. He's the godfather of transpersonal psychology. It's to transcend beyond one's ego. So this was then it became really intentional. I knew that through the learning and academia that I was doing and the embodiment of how I was doing it, because in this particular program that I did my master's, it was around so there's a science and a textbook and an academia, but how does that manifest in real life embodiment? And that's when I guess more awakenings happened, more awareness grew. And then I'd entered into now everything is energy, everything is about what I'm putting out and transmitting. And then that got me very curious about more metaphysical, esoterical worlds, if you like. So it's not for everyone, but that's where it led. And it's very science based, but it also depends on your belief structure and what you believe in. So that's how I became more aware. And because of that, I now live in a more consistent state of being present and being aware. That's my natural state now, but that has been 5 years of cultivation, I guess.
Okay, so you talk about like this energy, right? And having this energy and being intentional about your energy and when you went to the Tony Robbins event of like deciding how to show up, right? And deciding I'm paraphrasing here, but deciding how to show up and who you are when you show up. Has there ever been this conflict between how I want to show up and who my authentic self is?
Oh, yeah, bingo. Nail on the head.
Because I could see that, right? Like we want people to be their authentic self at work as they lead teams, as they lead organizations, as they lead themselves, right? Even if they're not leading a team. And there might be this, I want to show up like that, but who I am is not that. So how have you reconciled that or what are some like coaching mechanisms that you've used in order to help reconcile that?
Yep. So in my first year doing my master's, we called it an LIP, Learning Integrated Practice. So bearing in mind that these parts of ourselves, so we've got a physical, a mental, an emotional, a social, and a spiritual self. These are what we define as human dimensions, and they all need to be matured simultaneously. So sometimes we might prefer a physical over a mental or a social over a physical. And if you look at a coaching wheel, and most people that understand and done group coaching have done some kind of wheel, you'll see that there's areas and domains, and you kind of look where you are on the scale and you see that the wheel is lopsided. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to when we look at our human growth and development. So unless you look at your all your dimensions equally and as important, then they are like scaffolding for each other. A learning integrative practice is to do that, to mature these dimensions simultaneously. And so what happened was in the studies, we had to create, or I had to, each of us as a student, create our own learning integrated practice. So that was a 90 minutes at least a week of creating practices that were to mature these dimensions. So, what that would look like is each human dimension, I would have one activity per day and habit stack. And what that would look like is, for example, for emotional, journaling became the thing that I would do every day. For spirituality, it would be meditation and breath work. For physical, it would be outside in nature, probably doing meditation and a bit of journaling. And then for social, that would be walking with a person, for example. So there was everyday things that were done consistently over a long extended period of time to build these kind of habits. And over time, the morphing just it was a gradual transformation that all of these parts of me came into oneness, as I might describe. Now, how do I know that? I took so one of my friends, a professional friend, acquaintance, runs a leadership development program and programs, should I say. And one of them is an assessment to see how close you are to your real and authentic self. And you've got this graph, which is, external, internal, and you've got a line, and above the line and below the line would show the extremities of differences between these 2 points. Mine was nearly flat on both sides. That means that I am being and living in my most authentic self. But that means what you're experiencing now is exactly what you experience as my friend, is exactly what you experience as my client, exactly what you experience as a peer. There is no variation.
How freeing is that? That's amazing. I mean, and I'd love to go back to like the defining moment where you decided to leave your corporate career and why, right? You can keep the names confidential of anybody who had an impact on you that wasn't so positive, but like what was that or what happened or what were the series of things that took place that where you decided like this just can't be anymore and this isn't right for me or this isn't right for the organization or this isn't the vibe that I'm looking for. And yeah, talk us through that kind of defining moment.
It was. And for anybody that recalls, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman had a marriage together. And when they got divorced, the media went into a frenzy when and I don't know the truth of this because who knows what She comes into sunlight outside and outstretches her hands and looks kind of like closed eyes up to the sky as if to kind of go like this is a it's done kind of thing. That's the moment for me. I had a Nicole Kidman moment. And I was working for a very well-known brand and actually there's no secret, it's Condé Nast. And I knew that when I took that job, so if we go back to my 20-year-old self, I went to live in America. I went to work on cruise lines and I was a croupier, nothing related to what I do now. But I made a deal with myself and I said I would always work for, I wanted to work for Diesel, for Nike, for Condé Nast. I wanted to work for Vogue. I would be a chief people officer. I would be, in fact, I didn't even say a chief people officer. I said I'd be a psychologist. And little did I know, years fast forward, I could tick all these boxes. So there was something that was intentionally set in my early years, which is what I would do. So that's the backdrop. So now we've kind of got to the point in my career. I'm 45 years old, and or 43 at the time, something like that. Still relatively young to be board member and have quite a lot of stripes under my belt, if you like. I knew that when Condé Nast knocked on my door because of what I'd done at Adidas. So I'd done a very, very big digital transformation and it was very visible and it was a very historical moment for Adidas. So I got a knock on my shoulder to kind of go, yeah, do you want to come and join us? We need digital to print kind of, project. So yeah, I said yes, knowing full well that my social background was very misplaced. I left school at 15, no education. I've only done education in my later years as a conscious decision because I love research. So I knew that I was going to be a fish out of water. I don't have a particularly posh accent. I'm not the normal character that's very glossy and polished. But I took the job because for me it symbolized on my resume like I'd made it. I don't quite know who I was proving that to because the only person I need to prove anything to is myself. But anyway, at that time, there was a kind of thought of I've made it and the salary was great and I was living between London, New York. I'd already lived in New York. For me, it's like the British girl that's kind of got everything. And it was from the outside perspective, like I have the dream. And I think I was probably the most miserable, if not borderline suicidal, doing that job. Because I was printed every day. Be quiet. Don't be yourself. Don't you can't show up as yourself. You can't be who you are. Now, I'm saying that this is my experience. I'm talking from Zoe and I'm talking about how I felt. So nobody can challenge me, including Condé Nast, whether they intended that or not, or that's how I felt and that's how I received it. Now, did I do anything about it? No, because I know that the fashion sector is notoriously difficult and very and yes, there are characters that work in Condé Nast, very well-known characters that would be saying, "Oh, is that the Devil Wear Prada?"
I just watched that on a flight and I was like watching it made me anxious watching it.
And I would say that's not my experience. I didn't experience that. Certainly from the characters that were portrayed, there was never any of that. But what I will say that my own insecurities were ramped up when I was already feeling in an environment which wasn't conducive to my natural state of being. I had to mask. I was exhausted masking, and I felt unwell because I was so at dis-ease within myself and my body and burnout. So what did I do? Just overwork, work every 15 hours a day. China in the morning, New York in the evening. And so therefore there was no other way than to horrendously burn out. And at that point, I knew if I didn't leave, I'd be fired. It's that simple. And who wants that moment where you are so publicly, kind of ousted out? I didn't want to do that. I thought I don't want to do that. So there was a decision, and that decision led me on a very different path, which I don't regret any of that. And this is, again, I'm not saying any characters in here are bad or awful or anything like that. Just it wasn't a great experience for me. And I'm sure that there are other people that have worked there that have had an amazing experience. But for me, it was just a very dark period of my life. And, yes, I made it on the external world. At what cost? Mental health, absolutely. Nearly lost friendships because I didn't see anybody. My family were upset. I didn't spend any time with them. But who knew that that would be the day I left there? I felt the most enormous relief.
Isn't that incredible?
It was relief, and I thought, "I'm never gonna be a CPO again. It's not for me." And I my back all the time, and there's no one I trust, and it's just awful. Now I did go on to do a small CPO role, but that's by the by, that was a very different scenario. But yeah, moment, it was a life-defining moment that I said, "Enough of this. This has to end now, and it's up to me to end it, because no company has my well-being in their epicenter. No company ever save us, look after us, unless it's our company for us. And that's my choice. I will have my own company because I won't experience it ever again."
Well, that's an interesting point, right? Because I think so many people who work for organizations look to the company to say, what are you doing for my well being? What are you doing to make me feel good here? What are you doing to make sure that I'm taken care of? And I think that's an interesting point, right? Or an interesting thought of like, there are things organizations can do. And then there are personal things that you have to do, personal accountability that you have to take for yourself, right? To make sure that it also works for you, right? And that it's not square peg round hole, because the reality is I'm not for everyone and everyone's not for me. And it sounds like that's the same thing that you experienced, right? But that takes a lot of courage to come to that place to say, this might be for you, but it's not for me. And so I'm going to go do something about it instead of saying, what's the company going to do for me?
I think radical accountability for ourselves is the only real job that we have in this world, in this human life. We have to take full accountability. We are exactly in the place where we have chosen to be. And I say that because this is not Condé Nast's fault. It's not anyone else's fault other than what I was willing to put up with, put up or shut up kind of thing, and I did exactly that. They didn't make me sick. I made me sick by staying in a situation which wasn't conducive. And I would say that I'm exactly where I am today because I choose to be, because I placed myself here. And I think if we could all take radical accountability for ourselves, we'd be in a very different, economic state of the world, social state of the world. We'd be in a very different, but therefore I'm not political. I'm not gonna start into that, but I'll get
We won't go there. We won't go there. But okay, so what does that radical accountability look like for you? Right? I mean, I could go into this too, and it probably goes back to like my childhood, I'm sure, right? And I've had other conversations with people talking about building leadership and how there's been a lack of building leadership in some, I guess, generations, you could say. I won't break it down into generations because I really think it's about the person and not the generation that they were born into. But, anyways, that's neither here nor there. But how do you do that for yourself? And how do you do that for others to get them to have radical accountability?
Oof, that's a great question. So I think, well, not think, I know and feel and think for myself that it's hard to look at myself and kind of go, if you're miserable, you placed yourself in a place of misery. So you can unplace yourself. So I think for me, there is a direct correlation of, if you don't like where you are, do something about it. Don't expect anybody else to come along. It's up to you to fix whatever needs to be fixed or change or evolve or transform. This is completely and utterly down to you. So, yes, if I'm dissatisfied with my life, the only person I can look at is me. I'm the only one that created it. I'm the only one that can change it. So I do believe that our environment is very conducive to where we are. And I can't say that I've done this work on my own. There's been psychologists, hypnotherapists, there've been coaches, there's been mentors. There are still those people in my life who help me to point out the obvious to me, because when you're in your own muck, I might say, I won't say another word, in your own muck or your ecstasy, right? So when you're in ecstasy, my question is, why am I here and what's driven me here? And when I'm in the muck, I might say, what do I need to learn to get out of this? So I think there's a different way of going why, because why instantly is a why me and feels a bit victim mentality. And I think, no, I'm not a victim. Life is happening for me. And therefore, if it is, it's up to me to create that life. And I do that consciously with my thoughts and my feelings every minute of every day. So I have to master myself. I have to master my own thoughts and feelings. And I have to take accountability for every day, every moment. And even if somebody's nasty to me on a day, it's not my business about them being nasty. It's about the reaction that I have to that nastiness. It's about me kind of going, do I allow you to ruin my day? Or do I take back my power and say, that's on you. That's a deflection of your day. That's your wound. You're up from that. Nothing to do with me. So it's that distinction, which is detachment from what others do or don't do. And then that comes into the second thing, which is I cannot expect or manage anybody else. I can't. I can't make anybody do anything that they don't want to do. My invitation is simply, do you like where you are? Does it work for you? No? Then be open to change it. And you need to do a bit of soul searching to do that. And you might, if you want a new life, you've got to trade your old life for the new one. So that means you've got to be uncomfortable. You've got to get out of your own way. And that's not easy.
Yeah, because sometimes like the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't, right? It's that age-old saying that like, well, I'm just going to sit in the muck because like at least I know it and I know what to expect, because on the other side of it might be something that I'm like, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with, it's new, I'm going to have to change something that I've been used to. It doesn't mean it's a bad change, it's just unknown. But this response thing is really interesting, right? Like how I respond to something is really what I can control, or respond to somebody's energy or what I feel like they've done to me. It's like I have control over the response. I actually talk to my kids a lot about this too, because feel like it's a skill that you can build when you start young, right? Because you have to respond to friends or people or teachers or environments or whatever. And I feel a little bit like we have so many inputs throughout the day, especially with like our access to information on. So I'm not saying social media is bad or good. I don't have a stance on it. I'm not an expert in it. It can be good and bad, just like anything in life, right? Hi there, mister. For those just listening in, we have a sweet little dog named Dougie that's joining Zoe today. Very, very, very sweet.
Yeah, it's very sweet. Very easy to get distracted. Sorry.
Yeah. He's so cute. Um, and we have so many inputs that I think that many times, and I find myself in this situation too, we're not sitting in the present moment to be able to consciously respond how we believe, or how we want to, or how we should. We just simply respond without intention, and we are reactive to a situation around us versus like allowing. My husband will tell me this all the time. He's like, why do you have like 14 text conversations going on at any one time? Like how can you actually respond to all of those and be in the moment with all of those and like do as you want to, be present, and then have all of these things going on in these text conversations? He's like, just let it be, like put it away and he is totally fine. And I have a friend that's the same way. Just I'm going to respond when I need to, or I feel like I should, not because you text me something and I need to do it right away. So it's really interesting, this idea of like being fully present with all these inputs coming in. It's really hard.
Yeah, and it's become easier over time. And I think this is a few things of learning to actively listen. So I've noticed in probably the last year or two, that if a call was disconnected and we got connected and you're like, where was I? I could probably repeat the last 4 or 5 words that you were saying and then went blank. And I think that that's something that I've consciously created, more listening, and being very present in the conversation. And when I am, that also helps me to ponder a response of like, what is it that I want to match this with? So the other day, I had this little guy and I'm walking him, and this woman marches up to me and she's like, can you see that there's a sign there that says dog on the lead and your dog's not on the lead? And I'm like, thank you for the observation. I stayed quiet and she said, well, that's what it says. And I'm like, I'm very aware what it says. Well, why isn't your dog on the lead? And I said, I have no responsibility to respond to you. But thank you for the feedback. Thank you for reminding me. It was lovely. And so she said, well, what are you going to do about it? I said, I noticed earlier on you zooming down the road and the law says that it's 15 miles an hour. And I know that you don't do 15 miles an hour. So I'll just remind us that there are rules and then there's a law, and we can choose to ignore some of them or choose to adopt others. But you know what? I will just leave it there. Thank you very much and be on our way. Now, inside, I'm furious. I'm like, I
Of
don't know
course.
what to do. Like, he's a tiny dog. He's stuck to my side. Yeah. And I know that there are rules. I've made sure he goes out at 6 in the morning. He doesn't interact with anyone else. He doesn't go out until later on in the afternoon. And if he does go in the day, he's on a lead. But this woman actually walked out of her house in her dressing gown to come and tell me that I was wrong at 6 in the morning. Okay. Okay. So instead of that, I was like, thank you very much. But when she didn't back down, I was like, if you can just carry on about your day, I'm very sorry if you're offended. And I just literally took my voice down intentionally. So she had to lean in and hear me a bit more. And then I heard what she's got to say. She's not wrong, but I'm not going to be beholden to somebody telling me to put, I know to have him off the lead, but I'm also like, he wants to play a little bit. And he's in an apartment. He doesn't have a garden like you do. Anyway, so stupid example, but I could have really flown off the handle and told her she was beep the beep 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 and had a scan argument, which would have been completely senseless. 20 years ago, I probably would have done. I'd have fronted up and said, "What's your problem? What mind your own business?" But I thought, no, we don't need to do that. She's doing good in the world by reminding people that there are rules. Just today, I don't want to hear it, but I'm just going to say thank you very much. Thanks.
Right. Right.
And be on our way. And then that was it. The exchange was over. I didn't dwell on it because it wasn't a horrible exchange. It was just a bit more, transactional, and it was fine. In the end, we ended up having a nice walk, didn't we, Doogie? Yeah. So it was
Okay, but translate that interaction into the workplace, right? Can you imagine? And you mentioned this earlier. People don't like to be told what to do, and she was telling you what to do without knowing you, understanding your intention, anything, right? She just like observed one thing and then decided that it was her role to tell you. And I could see how this could translate into a leader telling a person what to do, how to do it without actually knowing them, understanding them, being intentional about how they approach them. And you could see how, if you're not in tune with who you are and how you want to respond, how that can spiral really quick, like really quick, to create an energy that's, whether you know it's intentional or not, it creates a situation that's probably not what you want, but it's the impact that you have. And that was just one small interaction in your morning. People probably have those interactions and then go to work, and then it leaks out, and then it creates something else, to something like the impact in a short period of time can be so profound.
That's the vibe thing again. Like if the woman had come up to me and smiled and said, I've seen you walking the dog, and I know that this dog is not familiar. So are you looking after him? Is it a new dog? Is it?" And I would have said, he's visiting for a few days. And then she might have said, well, we've got quite a few dogs here and we keep them on the leads because some of them have had some interactions. And I'm just maybe sharing with you that to keep them on lead might be better for your doggy because, there are people around. I would have taken something which was a bit of a white flag to say, I'm making it a benefit to you. I'm telling you now, if I want something as a result of that, then what am I getting out of it? You're going to put the dog on the lead and everyone's going to be like, oh, thank you for sharing that with me. So I know that my treasured pooch is not going to be in any way harmed or under any threat. If she'd come from that way, there would have been so much more. What a nice lady to come out and march down the and share with me because she's worried that something might happen. Now she might bobble back down the road and go, yeah, so I want that dog on a lead and that's the way I've done to get it. She doesn't need to know any different, right? So it's all about what's your intentionality. What I know she wants me to put the dog on the lead, but why? And I know the rule. He's tiny. He doesn't messes anyway. He goes in the specific place, which is fine because other dogs do. It's just the example of again the situation. You might just want to ask, and it would have been even better if she was hanging out of her back garden, and then I pass by and she strikes up a conversation. Instead of having even her way that she was marching down the road, I thought, uh oh,
I could just imagine this.
Like, here we go. What's this going to be? Because I knew that there was going to be a confrontation. So again, immediately I'm like, I'm feeling the vibe is there's a threat here. And therefore in my brain, I'm like, well, hang on a moment. Let's just not react because I was a bit caught off guard thinking, oh no, I don't even have a dog. But anyway, I mean, he's not bothered, but it was just a bit silly, all a bit silly. But you're right, micro moments like that. And I probably got thousands that I could tell you, thousands of examples of exactly that going on. And I haven't handled it very well. And I've been like, why don't you just bobble off in the other direction and leave me the hell alone?
There's like an emotional maturity that you have now, right? But I just think back to like my younger self too, or people I've interacted with in the workplace that might have had a rough morning or a rough season of life, right? That just emotionally aren't in a place to be able to respond well or take a pause and say, hold on, let me take a minute. I want to respond to you. I don't want to have a poor impact because that's not really what I mean. That's not my intention, but it's how it's going to come out of my mouth, right? Instead, it just comes out or a leader just comes up and is da 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 or writes an email that's very direct that has no emotional component tied to it so the person receiving it creates the emotion tied to the email and then it just creates a situation or an energy that to your point earlier kind of ripples, right? Because then that person's upset and so their coworker sitting next to them hears about it or feels the energy from that person being upset. It's just like it's incredible what those micro moments do fast, right? It's almost like a burning fire.
And they're so memorable because there's a quick acceleration of energy, which, creates that moment. And so that's really stuck with me. And even though I'm not bothered by it, I was just like, huh, that really stuck with me because I always say to myself in any situation where I'm called to maybe be assertive or confrontational or something, I have to look in myself in the mirror now and say, did I have what was my responsibility in this and how did I handle that? Oh, there you go. Look. Um, thumbs up. I have to be careful because I breathe things around with my hands and then these
I don't know where that I've never seen that happen before. That was funny.
this will also see. Oh no, yeah, there you go. Confetti.
What about this?
Oh, if you do hearts, hearts will come.
Oh my gosh. You have a special kind of energy with your hands for this recording.
Let me put the doggy down. He's ready to go down. So, yeah. So I have to always ask myself, have I done the best in situ? Now, I haven't always, and I won't say that I sit here and I'm 100% like all the time, even killed. There will be moments where I feel, you know what, Zoe, you didn't handle that particularly well, and I have to then say, well, first of all, have forgiveness for that. I'm human. And if I need to apologize, let's go and apologize and go and deal with that. So, and I have many times, said to the person, if I was a bit sharp or I apologize. And most of the times they say you wasn't, you were just kind of like it, stating as it was. But I always, with anybody I work with in any capacity, I always say to them, and even friends, you don't need permission to give me feedback. If you think that something's off or wrong or right and good, you feel free to tell me. But I can ask you this one thing. Check with me first. Am I ready to hear it? I don't have permission at all times, but I can just ask you this one thing. Ask me, are you ready to hear a little bit of feedback? And I will tell you, not now, or go ahead, right? So if it's not now, can we revisit this later tonight, this afternoon, tomorrow, whenever maybe I am in a little bit of conflict in my inner self. So I need to kind of calm that down. Usually, if there's a bit of energy coming, it's because I know I'm not right. It's because I know that I did something wrong. So defense is the best form of attack for me. I'm not talking about this happens daily. It's just more of that again, knowing myself very well, getting to know myself. I know my triggers. I know my points of energy where my vibe might kind of like go explosive in one way or another. But I know because I get a feeling as well. So I know what's happening within my body. And I know that when that's gonna, yeah, have some response
Yeah. Okay, so now you're in this world of helping others, right? This is the business that you're in of working with clients and helping others. So you've done so much work internally for yourself. So tell me a little bit more about the work that you're doing today, your approach to people today, how you're working with them to help them improve themselves personally and professionally.
Yes. So I do that through my work. So in that exit I had from Condé Nast, I decided to basically see if I could start up, make a startup myself, monetize it, get investment for it, do a startup. So I've always been very techy and I've worked with digital and tech for quite some years. So for me, this was I want to do a tech startup and I want to see if I can do that. And I did. And I made some terrible mistakes, thought I knew everything and was really proved wrong. Now I got it up and I have it running. It's called the Outplacers. And this is about executive career navigation, outplacement, because I never want people to go through what I did. So that was the kind of like passion project at that moment in time. And that's been somewhat successful. I think that you've got to be in something for a long game to see true success. I don't believe that anything is done overnight. So that was kind of off the back of me feeling that exits were terrible. And I've been on exiting people as well as being exited myself. So I come from both sides. Like, how do you make that process kind? And then the other side of it is that so getting people to a place where they can get another job and they can feel great about that job is like one aspect. The other aspect is now I specialize in helping people either get a job or get clients because we need to be paid somehow. So my job has transitioned into being HR for kind of HR people in most senses. So I do a bit of fractional work myself because that's my craft and that's what I've been used to doing. And now I choose to do it through helping the profession that has been so instrumental for me. I mainly focus on helping HR people in house or HR consultants to grow their business or grow their team. So how I interact and how I go about my business is very heart led. So we can talk about AI. That's not heart led. It's based on patterns. It's transactional, and yes, it's learning over time. But for me, the point is that the human still has to lead, still has to be the soul. Okay, and so that's how I would say now I'm a soulful strategist. So I bring strategy to life with soul. Not forget the human side of us. So that's kind of how it translates into my work day in a nutshell. So I have two companies, the Outplaces and Empowered. And Empowered is a AI consultancy.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me a little bit, a couple minutes, just about AI and how you're integrating this. Cause I love how you put it like it can't replace your soul, right? And you're doing some soul work, soul strategy, and all of these things. And I am a firm believer of that too. And I do utilize AI quite a bit. I find it very helpful. I think I'm not afraid of it. It's here, it's coming fast and furious. So talk to me a little bit about your because it's such a hot topic right now.
It is. And I'm conscious that we're coming to our end of our time together. So I'll keep this really, really sharp. We had a well, we've had an agricultural revolution, we've had an industrial revolution. We are now in a technology revolution, and we have been since the 2000s when we had the World Wide Web, and everything changed. And this is AI has the ability to change everything for us, but we have to remember it's a vehicle, it's a resource, it's a mechanism. It is not something that's going to replace, right? Now we need to, the same way in the technology 2000s, we need to learn how to coexist with it. We thought that it was unthinkable that we had, the ability to be able to communicate in a different way than we ever did before. And we thought, is this going to change? Well, it did change, but we soon adapted because we could see the benefits of it. AI is no different. It's about adapting to what these tools are. I think that we need to be very incredibly mindful what we're using it for. I come back to the intentionality is that if you intend on using anything for bad, could be social media, could be anything. You can use it for bad and you can do bad in the world. If you want to use it to optimize, to grow, to transform, for positive for yourself and for all in our planet, I don't think we should be worried. If you're worried, it's because of fear. You don't know what you don't know. So the only thing you can do is start to use it and to interact and get to know AI. more for ourselves. And so we can't keep listening and looking what other people are doing. We've got to get involved. We've got to open ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude. Just interact, right? Get interacting. And then it gives us comfort. We're over then the fear of this thing, because it's a resource, no different than Microsoft, no different than Google, no different than it's a way of working. And so we just have to master the way of working.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, it's no different than computers didn't exist long ago, right? And they were integrated into our workplace. And now we have a hard time. Well, I do, I'll speak for myself, a hard time when my Wi Fi is down or when my computer's not turning on or when the battery goes dead or whatever. It's like, what am I going to do? Right. So I think it's the same mentality. You're right. It's this elusive thing though. So it's like the more we get to know and interact with it, the less fear there likely is because some people are a little bit more open, I guess, to change and doing new things and trying out new things without knowing all of it, and some people are not. So just depends where you are on that spectrum of change and exploration, I guess I would say.
Yeah. And like on Tuesday, it was so hot in the UK that my laptop powered down, my phone powered down, which is unusual, right? But we all remember everyone talks about being out the matrix. I hate to tell everyone you're in the matrix because if we turn the electricity off, we're cut off and we don't own the electricity bill. We don't own anything. As soon as we realize that the only thing we own is our response and reaction to anything going on inside of our four walls, and we kind of go, well, everything else is we are in the matrix. We're in it. We are controlled. If we not, we're illusional. So again, look at it for what it really is, and know that we've got extraordinary abilities to influence. And that's all with our vibe. We can influence with our energy, simply with what we put out there, how we are, how we act, and just being about attention and intentionality.
Yeah. Okay, so as we wrap up our time together, there's so much greatness that we talked about and so many things people could do. But if you had to boil it down to one thing that you would recommend for anybody listening to go do once this podcast ends, what's that one thing you would recommend that doesn't require a committee or a meeting or money or anything like that? It might require a little personal investment, but not, a big budget where they have to go request some money from somewhere. What is the one thing that they could go do?
The one thing that everyone can do to be a better human is to do two things a day. Number one is to do some breath work, 5 deep breaths in, 5 deep breaths out. And anytime they get annoyed, they can just exercise their breath and just create space for the reaction. Just observe it. That's number one. Breath work is life changing, and we do it every day. We don't do it brilliantly because we're not taught to. The second thing is find everything and anything to be grateful for today, not when it might be here, well, not when more money's coming through the door, not when I get that car or that house. Find enormous gratitude for all the things that you have in your life. You do these two things over a period of time, and I promise you will start to look at your life differently, at yourself differently, and start to take radical accountability for yourself.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. So simple. So just go do it. Stop saying you're going to do it and just go do it. Because what could it take? Maybe like 2 minutes a day, 5 minutes. I mean,
2 to 5 minutes. And when you see the benefits and gradual, like actually, you're going to look forward to doing those 5 breaths. You're going to look forward to finding, because when you're in gratitude, you can't be angry. So it's like complete, utterly bring your sympathetic, your nervous system into more balance. Number one, and you feel better. Now, when stage for years and years, what did you say? Few deep breaths. Think about like that. That's the first thing people would say because it's so true. You can just set your nervous system down, and they're just so available to us.
and if you find yourself sitting there thinking, okay, what am I grateful for? Oh, I'm grateful for my family. And you start with like these big, obvious things. That's okay. Just start. Just start.
And it might well be, I'm just grateful that I've got a cup of coffee or this magazine. I'm grateful I've got 5 minutes to myself before my kids wake up. I'm grateful that I have, even though it might be an old car, I have freedom to move in a car. I've got money, I've got £5 in the bank or 5 million in the bank. I'm grateful for the £5. Like whatever it is, even if you don't necessarily feel it, just to recognize it and sit in that cultivates a just a very yeah, like I say, a soothed system, because we live in this world that does this constantly. Well, if your vibe, if you can manage your vibe and bring it into nice balance, guess what? Everyone else feels it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Zoe, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your wisdom, your insight, just your calming nature. I appreciate you so much. And I hope everyone can take something away from what we discussed today. And I'm certain that they can.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for like being able to do this for others, right? So thank you for being a host and allowing people to have a forum. It's brilliant. So, and I'd love you to come on my podcast.
Oh, you bet. You bet I
I
will.
mean, you are experienced compared to me, but I would love, at least I'd be very privileged if you would. So, but this has been great, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Zoe, for all the goodness you shared today. I mean, remember, a vibe isn't just a mood, it's an energy that everyone can feel. Whether you're walking into a boardroom or making your morning coffee in the break room, how you show up matters. So show up with intention. Another incredible nugget that we discussed today was taking radical accountability, not just for your goals, but for your growth. Be real, be human, because authenticity isn't just refreshing, it's revolutionary. And quite honestly, it's absolutely necessary. Zoe and I also explored the wild world of AI, which is such a hot topic these days. But what was important in my conversation is the mindset around AI. It's here to complement human connection, not replace it. Don't fear the technology, engage with it, own it. It's here to stay. And for that quick and simple takeaway that everyone can do now, breath work. One of the simplest, most powerful tools to reset your energy and calm the chaos that might be happening around you. Stop, take a deep breath, and then move on with your day. The workplace can impact our mental health more than we like to admit. So check your vibe, protect your peace, and always, always bring the good energy. Stay curious, stay courageous, and keep vibing, my friends. If this episode inspired you and you want to see how you can take the next step to creating a better vibe within your organization, I'd love for you to download our complimentary 75 Vibes worksheet. This is a simple tool to create a habit and mindset around creating great vibes in work and life. The best part, it's simple and it works.